Well, good morning. A very, I would say a warm welcome from Heusden-Zolder here in Belgium, but it's pouring with rain, it's pretty windy and it's rather cold as we get ready to bring you what is going to be a thrilling weekend of racing here at the World Cyclo-cross Championships. There will be all sorts of sights and sounds. These aren't the only ones who've got pink hair around the circuit. And as you can see here, the flags are not fluttering. They are pretty stiff out as far as the wind is concerned around this circuit. It's always a spectacular weekend when we come to the World Cyclo-cross Championships. All the nations are here and they're going to cheer on these races that we're going to bring you throughout today. Well, alongside me, to build up to our first race of the day, which is the men's junior World Cyclo-cross Championships, is Simon Burney. Simon, a very warm welcome, a great point to bring you in as we take a look at the course.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. It's based on the traditional Zolder World Cup course that we've been coming to for a few years now. They made a big change, though, at the World Cup on Boxing Day this year. It's a course of two very distinct halves. The second half, we'll see as we go around the course, the second half is as tough as it gets in cyclo-cross racing. It is a really hard climbs. They've taken the course that was very fast. It's a sandy area, drains very well. This is yesterday before the rain started. They've built a couple of bridges again, which are making it hard. Instead of putting the spectators over the riders, they put the riders over the spectators. So definitely made it a tough one. But it's going to be, we'll talk about the course a little bit more as the racing progresses and what's happened overnight with the weather and how that's changed the course. But it's going to be interesting for sure. Yeah,
I mean, yesterday a lot of the talk. I think that's Sven Nys just in front of the rider. You can see him disappearing down this drop-off as we go around the circuit. Some of these drop-offs are very steep indeed, aren't they?
They are very steep. The camera really flattens things out here, but there's a big sand dune I won't say run up, it's a walk up, it's a crawl up. It's one of these 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You literally put your hand out in front of you and you can touch the sand, and it's loose. It's a new feature, I say, came in this year, but the drops are steep. The descents, they get very rutted at the bottom, which is the only technicality. It's not a technical course in a sense of something like Tabor in the ice that we saw last year with the changing conditions. We're not having any of that. It's not an overly technical course. It's one of these occasions where it becomes more technical the faster you go around it. And yeah, one slip obviously it affects your race, but the ground conditions, it's sandy, it dries out very fast, even with probably 7 or 8 hours of rain today so far. Odd little bits of grass have gone muddy, but the rest of the sandy soil underneath the trees has stayed relatively dry. But the ruts are getting bigger. They're getting deeper overnight, from yesterday's training and into this morning's training. So, it's going to be a challenge. The wind, as you can see there, is really strong. And it's a headwind on probably the hardest part of the course as well. Yeah. There's one section after you've come through pit 2, goes up an adverse camber climb, joins onto a road climb, and then over that steep spectator bridge that we just saw earlier. That's a headwind up there. That's going to be a crucial section of the course for sure.
Here we are with the lineup of the junior men. We've got 67 riders taken to the start. 21 nations are represented here in this junior race, which is always spectacular. We don't know who's going to win it, but we've got a good idea of who are the riders on form who've been featuring in the World Cup so far this season. We just passed, for the American fans, the list there with Gage Heck on the list. Last week for Great Britain, Thomas Pidcock was the big surprise of the World Cup in Hoogehede, but also in here the Dutch squad is very strong indeed. The Belgian team is strong, and so are the French riders as well. But as we go through the list, the Canadians have got a strong representation. I must mention Ben Wolkerden and Noah Barrow of Australia. The Australians with a nice contingent of riders here too. And Ireland are represented here by David Conroy with Håkon Aurust of Norway making up the final list of riders there. Well, the flags are out, all the different nations. There's the Welsh flag. around the course. There's a lot of Brits, there's a lot of Belgians. We've seen a lot of Swiss and Danish people out around the course, and the atmosphere is building. We're expecting, how many do you reckon? 50,000?
No, they're talking 80,000 people, which is ridiculous. That's football match proportions. I think we saw, what was it, 63,000 in Coxsider a couple of years ago. Yeah. They've bought enough beer for 80,000, so if only 70,000 show up, there'll be plenty to go around.
There'll be plenty. Well, it's one of those atmospheres that you walk in. We were here pretty early, but over the last hour, you tend to forget the noise of the World Championships until you're back here, because as we just take a look here, we remember last year Simon Andreasen, a fantastic performance in Tabor, Tizards, and now Mathieu van der Poel, twice the winner, back-to-back there. Of course, he's now the world champion and defending his title today in the elites. Clement Venturini rode well in 2011, and normally when we see the junior riders, we see them emerge later. Boy van Poppel, though, of course, emerging on the road as a really top performer on the road circuit, not on the cyclo-cross circuit. But the noise of the World Championships is incredible. I was around around Helen Wyman's camper van earlier, and Steph Wyman, her husband, of course, who looks after her, there was a bell tolling in the background, and he said that's going to be here all day now, isn't it? It's just noisy. There's Euro pop. It just goes on.
It does, yeah. There's nowhere to hide. You can't even go to the beer tent to get out of it. It's even worse.
It's even noisier in the beer tent. So if you are settling down to watch us here, are the riders on the start line as they get themselves ready. The tailwind start is going to be very, very fast indeed. The wind is really powering its way through this Zolder circuit. Of course, this Zolder Formula One circuit made famous for both good and bad reasons. Of course, we remember Gilles Villeneuve from this circuit. But of course, it has hosted incredible bike races, incredible motor races, as the riders now line up on the start line.
That was Beat Wabel, former junior world champion himself, back in Munich 1985, one of the great Swiss riders. Now the UCI technical delegate. Has been 10 years looking after World Championships and World Cups.
Yeah, he's at every single World Championship. I think this is Jacob Doragoni of Italy getting ready for racing. Very focused indeed. Now the jackets are coming off. There's Gage Heck on the left-hand side, the young American rider who's been riding so well. Jens Decker getting ready as well for racing. That's Thies Volsink, actually, who's now about to take to the start. 7th in the World Cup. As he gets ready, there's Gage Heck. He potentially could take the win here for the United States of America. That's Seppo Romboots, who was 6th in the World Cup from Belgium, just getting the last few little adjustments ready. Jappe Jaspers, we like his name. He is riding for Belgium, 2nd in the World Cup, 2 wins so far. Sorry, there's Gage Heck. It was his teammate alongside him further on down the line. This is Mitch Groot, 4th in the World Cup for the Netherlands, and the final rider, Jens Decker, who was the World Cup winner of this season.
Interesting, you talked about Tom Pidcock finishing 2nd last week, the very, very talented first-year junior Brit. He's actually starting on the 6th row here, which is not such a disadvantage last week in Hoogerheide. Will definitely make a difference here. It's a lot harder to move up. It's a faster course. The slow kind of tractor-pull type of course we saw last weekend. It's a little bit easier to make up ground, but he's a prodigious talent for sure. He's going to be in the mix, hopefully, after a couple of laps, but don't be surprised if you don't see him on the first lap.
We've seen him over the weekend as the red lights are on now, ready for this start of this Junior World title. Here we go. It is going to be absolutely flat out down this starting straight, and then you've got to get yourself round this bottom corner, which is very difficult on this wet surface. They go powering past us here on the commentary box. You can see the rain on the camera. And Simon, it's all about getting through this first half lap very safely.
It is. It's his first 3 corners. This first left-hander is on really, really shiny short grass. Very, very slippery. Then you go immediately into 180 right and 180 degree left before you go into past pit 1.
So at the front of the race, Tanguy Turgis, the French rider who was third in the World Cup this season, has taken the start. The French riders have all been on our hotel. They seem to be in very good spirits, and 3 of them in the top 4 as they power away.
Now, so far, nobody's been flicked into the pit lane, which is good news.
So the pit lane's going to be pretty busy, I can imagine. Now onto the wetter, but as we've talked about, you've got the kind of sandy surface, so the water does drain away. It's not too bad at all, as we see Turgis followed by Thomas Bonnet. Bonnet was 8th in the World Cup, a bronze medalist in the European Championships, and France look to be packing nicely at the front of this race so far. Yeah,
definitely out of trouble so far. So the first half of this course, it flows quite nicely. It's pretty much the same as the old original World Cup course. Goes into the trees in a little while. Then we've got the climb up to the sanctuary on the hill, the spectator-free zone, which is a nice wide, and it goes very, very quiet. You were talking about the noise here. Suddenly you've got this amazing quiet part of the course.
Bit of peace and quiet.
It is. Gather your thoughts before you go back into the maelstrom below it. But yeah, it's the second half of this lap that we'll get to talk about in a couple of minutes' time. That's going to make the difference in this race, or in all the races.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, everyone who went round the circuit, and we talked to a lot of riders yesterday who were lucky, we were hanging around practice, were saying that second half, and you said immediately it's very, very tough. And as we see this French trio at the front, riding a good team race so far. It's Tanguy Turgis who leads 3rd in the World Cup, 9th in the overall rankings, followed immediately by his teammate Thomas Bonnet, and the rider there in the middle is Michael Crispin, who was 5th in the World Cup, 5th in Heusden-Zolder last week. So we're now into the tree section, and a little problem here for one of the Canadian riders, who looks to have I don't know whether just the chain is off or, well, proper mechanical problem. The Belgian rider there is Romboots. Behind Romboots is Thies Walsink. And this little group of riders now starting to open up some daylight between them and the rest of the field. So, Simon, into this section then, this is where
this is the climb up. Yeah, this is the climb up now to the sanctuary. It's a hard little climb, actually. It's quite deceptive. A couple of concrete blocks halfway up it that you need to clear. There's a few places on this course you can puncture. There's quite a few little rocks, and those concrete slabs are pretty big enough to see. You're not going to forget those, but there's definitely a few places that can catch you out. A lot of slippery roots. When the topsoil just comes off, it just exposes a few shiny roots in the trees. I don't think flat tyres are going to be a big issue here. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. But these bridges are tough. You know, you kind of think that they're just riding up and over, but it's a steep gradient. It's definitely an out the saddle effort that's going to definitely take its toll a few laps in.
So we see at the front then the 3 French riders. There's a little bit of teamwork going on here. They said, get on my wheel now, and let's see whether we can keep this going. Just looking a little bit further back, the gaps are opening. That was Florian Vermeesch, 6th in Heusden-Zolder, who's the last rider in this front group of riders. And as you said, Simon, for British fans, Thomas Pidcock has got a lot of work to do to go from where he was on the grid to get himself back up here to the start. And of course, once the gaps open in these junior races, it's really tough to close the gap.
It is, and you kind of hope that it'll be a group that comes back onto the road at the end of the first lap, and they all sit up and look at each other and just give the riders that started third lap, third row, fourth row, a little bit of an opportunity to get back up. If they get onto the road and they just, fire away, then it's going to be very, very difficult. This is where the tough part of the lap is going to start. You will, we're going to take a left now onto an off-camber climb. There's 2 lines on it. The right line goes higher and is actually the faster one if you can make it. The lower line is a little bit easier to get onto, but the left line from pan across, it actually drops down again before you climb up out of it. If you get onto the upper line, it's good. You then onto this tarmac road. which is climbing, and then another very steep bridge.
You can see just how tough you've talked about. These bridges are extremely hard, and the traction's not great on it either.
It's not bad, actually. It's fine. It's got like a felt carpet on it. It's not much of an issue, that. But it's just the physical effort to get up and over them. Once you're gassed from the steep camber climb and then the road climb immediately following it. Right now, we're going to go down a couple of steep, rutted drops that are going to take you back down to the bottom of the course, and then we've got the very, very steep sand dune run, followed by the really, really hard climb, which I think is going to be the decisive one in a lot of these races.
So at the front then, as we go through this drop-off, and we've got 2 riders now going clear, and it's Jens Decker, followed by the French rider there in second place. That's Michael Crispin. A crash there, and that's number 6, Mitch Groot. Big pile up at the bottom of that descent.
Yeah, and the leading Swiss rider, didn't see his number, but
Kevin Kuhn, who is the Swiss rider, he crashed and slipped off. Oh, that looked like it really hurt. The rider getting a pedal in the face, I think. Oh, yeah,
nasty.
That was a nasty crash.
That was nasty, yeah.
You'll notice the inflatable barriers on the right-hand side there to try and keep these riders safe, because as we talk about all the time, it does flatten everything out. When you stand at the side of this hill, you can't believe how steep it is. And the riders are going down. And as Beat Varbel said to us yesterday, well, I said, God, you have to use brakes going down there, and just looked at me. Just don't use brakes.
Yeah, we've missed the actual sand dune climb here. We've gone straight onto the hard climb, rideable climb after it. I think going back to watch the replay of the crash there. But you can see how much that climb has just strung it out. Obviously, the crash caused a few gaps a little bit further down the field, but these first riders now, 30 seconds ago, were together. That climb is going to make all the difference. Again, this is a pretty vertical drop, deep ruts at the bottom of it. Not as bad as the first one we saw the crashes, but again, it only needs an over the bars to definitely spoil your day.
So Jens Decker now going clear of the rest of the race. He was the World Cup winner of this season, European champion, of course. As we can see this drop, but this gives you a bit of a better idea of exactly what it's like. And now it's getting quite wet at the top of this climb, as we now see the lone leader then, Jens Decker, looking around to see what damage he had done. The French went out, set out their stall, but he has crossed the line there in a lap time of 8:16 on the opening lap, 8:29 from the start.
Interesting. We've got a 7:31 on the display, 7:18 for the lap. So
that's interesting.
A little bit of mixed information coming through on lap times.
I've got 8:16 on my rundown.
Okay,
that's weird. There we go. We'll go with this one for now, and we'll see what happens. And yeah, I think it's Jens Decker who is the leader at the end of lap 1, followed by Michael Crispin, Thomas Bonnet, Jaapie Jaspers, Jacob Dorigoni, Tanguy Turgis, Kevin Kuhn, Florian Vermeesch, Mathieu Legrand, Seppa Romboots is in 10th place, Thies Volsink, Quentin Navarro, and Ivan Fujo. Those are the riders who are the leaders at the end of lap 1. The Italian rider, number 11 there, Jacob Dorigoni, is having a few problems getting rid of his sunglasses, but there we go. We'll see how this race unfolds. Do join us on Twitter if you would like, at Ant McCrossan, at Simon Burney, over the next couple of days if you'd like to ask us any questions about the racing, as we take a look at still our leader through the murky camera. This gives you a little bit more atmosphere. It's pretty wet out there, but an impressive performance by Jens Decker so far. He does ride really well, doesn't he? He didn't panic at the beginning when the French were trying to take the race to everybody else. He's avoided the crash, and now he's got a little bit of daylight, and he's being chased by this young French rider, Michael Crispin, who is trying to get back on terms and just riding his way back onto the wheel if he can. and just making sure he doesn't make any sort of mistake. But Decker looks to have this one pretty nailed so far.
Looking good. I think the French messed up that first lap, to be honest. I think they went out a little bit too hard. They didn't need to. They got through at the front. They didn't necessarily need to push it that hard. They're out of trouble. You know, the Belgians and the Dutch were obviously going to take some advantage of a free ride on that first lap. But as we've seen now, Decker's looking comfortable, and two of the other Frenchmen have disappeared from sight. I actually picked up a couple of the British performers on that first lap. Mark Donovan, I think, came through in about 28th to 29th place. Tom Pidcock just behind him in 32nd. So again, for Pidcock, he's moved up from 43rd on the grid, 10 places in that first lap. So all he can do now is just keep whittling away at them.
Just to update you on a few other nationalities, because I know you like to, wherever you're watching, fans of different nations. Spencer Petrov of the United States is in 16th place so far. Gage Hecht is in 22nd. The German rider Nicholas Markle in 20th. Ben Turner of Great Britain in 23rd. Cameron Beard and Eric Brunner in 24th and 25th so far. Simon's mentioned Thomas Pidcock in 31st at this moment in time, about a minute down. That's a big ask to get anywhere near his performance of last week. And Andreas Andersen, 39th for the Danish squad. And just to update you on the first Irish rider, David Conroy down in 50th place. Noah Barrow of Australia is about 55th, and Ben Walkenden 57th at this moment. So in terms of junior racing, when you get a gap like this so far in a race, and you've got a rider of the calibre of Jens Decker, of course, is mixing with Mathieu van der Poel and those sort of riders who will give you even more motivation because you see them riding at the sort of speeds that they are. But the gears that they're on, it is incredibly difficult to make up any time.
Well, the gears are the same as the elite. There's no difference between the racers. It is hard to make up time
for the juniors.
Yeah, sure. It is hard to make up. You know, like Tom Pidcock's, you're saying, he's lost a minute on the first lap. That's hard to make up because he's got to go a minute faster than Decker on the who's leading the race. So it is difficult. I think Decker's, you know, he's from a nation that understand how to race, whether it's in a group or racing on their own. I don't think he won't be fazed by being out on his own at the end of lap 1, for example. I think he'd have been quite happy to be in a leading group of 6 or 8 riders on the 3rd lap. I don't think it's really going to change his you know, kind of state of mind throughout the race. I think he's quite comfortable. They're racing against each other regularly. They understand how to race in most of the conditions and the race scenarios that they find themselves in. Juniors, again, you know, they're up and down a little bit more than maybe the more mature and the more experienced elite and under 23 riders. They tend to get maybe a little bit more carried away, a little bit more excitable, sometimes make efforts where they maybe should be resting or using the head a little bit more and taking a recovery. But, you know, a rider of Decker's class, he's coming from the Van der Poel school of cyclo-cross. You know, the same Dutch support that's looked after them all for a number of years. So I've got no real concerns about him going out too fast and not being able to make 6 laps or however many. I don't think we've had a lap count yet. Is it a 5-lap race?
So far, we haven't had the...
showing 4 to go now, so
it should be a 5-lap race.
6-lap race.
6-lap race now. Yeah.
They'll get 4 to go the next time round after 2 laps.
So it looks like, look, hopefully our scoreboard in front of us is... it looks like they've sorted out the lap times now, which is good. So it was 8:29 off the start line, 8:16 for the opening lap. The leading riders then, Jens Decker, Mikael Crispin, Thomas Bonnet and Jappe Jaspers. Jaspers could be the danger man who could come across. It looks to me like Bonnet is not, he's dropping back a little bit. Jaspers is looking good, and he could be the dangerous rider because he's been the rider who's been on form. He won in Valkenburg, he won in Namur, he was 2nd in the World Cup. overall, and he looks to me like he's riding quite strongly here.
Yeah, I'd expect him to move into a medal position, Jaspers. I think, wouldn't be surprised to see one of the French riders just drop away, maybe out of the medals, to be replaced by the Belgian. This is the top of the sand dune that we've just been watching. Incredibly steep.
And the Italian rider who's not too far behind is Jacob Dorigoni, so he's riding well too, and trying to come back, who was 9th in the World Cup, 8th in the overall UCI rankings at this moment in time. But Jaspers is certainly looking a little bit more dangerous as far as a podium finish is concerned, as we see Decker go down the drop-off, and he's not having to take it on the limit now, is he?
He's not, which is good. I think if you're hitting some of these little short drops, absolutely maxed out or even over-maxed in the red, then it's more of a recipe for disaster than if you can just be a little bit more controlled, just take a breath at the top before you drop in. Definitely makes a difference.
Bonnet then is caught by Jaspers, who's going to try now to open up the advantage. Bonnet's trying to stay on the wheel. The French youngsters have been in our hotel over the last couple of nights, and they've certainly been excited. They've been making plenty of noise at breakfast, although notably it was a lot quieter this morning. As we see Decker then go across the line for the completion of lap number 2. Behind him, the gap back to the second place rider, Crispin, is going to be around about the 12-second mark, so very similar to last time. But in terms of the lap time slowed up. It was 8:16 on the opening lap, 8:25 now on the second lap, and Jaspers now is 27 seconds down on our leader. There's Dorigoni, who comes across in 5th place, and then a couple of riders not too far behind are the 2 French riders who did go out very, very strongly to set the tempo, to try and set out their stall. And you can't blame them for trying to get themselves into a winning position and take the race on against the Dutch and the Belgians. Next rider to cross the line then, Kevin Kuhn, another group including many Belgian riders. This group of riders are going to have to work so hard to get themselves back to the front. This is the group that contains Thomas Pidcock. Oh, a crash there for the Danish rider, hitting the deck. Carl Sorensen wearing number 4 as he hits the deck on that drop-off. Just looking then, the British rider Thomas Pidcock, Simon, is moving up. He's in a group of riders now, similar to what he did last week. He got himself in a group that closed some gaps in a very short space of time, but him and the leaders right now is a big, big ask.
It is, yeah. I just noticed there, Gage Hector's another one that was up there last weekend in Hoogerheide. He's currently in around 20th. Turner and Pidcock, the 2 Brits, 22nd, 28th, I think, right now. So, moving in the right direction. And the American's been in for a bike change there, number 17.
That's Gage Hecht, who's...
So
he's not on the form that he was last week at this moment, is he?
I don't think the form's any different. I think the courses this course makes a huge difference over last week's. I think it's a different style of race and a different style of rider that that can perform well on both of these courses. Last week, very, very slow, huge kind of consistent power to get through the very, very thick mud. It's again, television pictures didn't show how hard that was last week. I don't think it was very, very deep, sticky, rutted, nasty mud. A lot of running. There's only really a few steps on the feet on this course. Obviously, we saw Decker there just hop off. That's normally a rideable climb, and the sand dune isn't a run. It's just it is a very fast walk. It's not. There's no running skill involved in that. Last week there was a lot of there was flat running. There was some hill running and some very, very hard sustained riding. Here we've got lots of little peaks of power on the riding and no running. There's a different effort for sure. And it also made it easier for the guys that started 4th lap, 5th lap last week that style, of course, made it easy for them to move up. This is very hard, as you can see in the trees. It's pretty much single file on that first lap. Yeah, they mark the course wide. There sort of has to be a minimum 3-metre width, but a lot of the times there's only one
tyre width you can ride
on it. Yeah, so it makes a difference.
It does, for sure. Well, these riders then are settling into their ride. Second lap is already completed. It is, as Simon said earlier, going to be a 5-lap race now, because it's switched over. 3 laps now to go next time. So it'll be a 5-lap race for these junior riders, which means the women's elite will be relatively similar in number of laps.
I would guess they do 6.
They may do one more.
They should do one more. Yeah.
Thinking ahead to that race then, because that's going to be the big race of today, and there's a lot of talk around the women's elite race that's coming up, because they think there's probably 8 or 10 riders potentially who could win that race, and it could be an incredible battle between the top stars. But you think that's going to be perhaps the biggest race perhaps of the weekend, or the most close race of the weekend?
I don't know, actually. I think it's an interesting one. I think this next under-23 women's race is going to be a fascinating race to watch. You know, it's a new event. It's given the under-23 and the junior women their own stage. They don't have to try and be old before their time and race with the elite, you know, and that's going to be really interesting to take them out of the elite women that affect the race and obviously put positions between the under-23 girls. I think that's going to be a good race to watch. But like you said, the elite women, there isn't a rider in the field that's won the World Championships before. No. Which, you know, it changes it. They're not racing for second behind a Vos or, you know, Ferrand-Prévot last year, obviously, was a relative surprise. You know, I think we were thinking maybe Sanne-Cant was the favourite there, but Ferrand-Prévot, again, not here this year, out with an injury. Marianne Vos, we've missed her this year, but it's opened it up, and it's going to be a fascinating race, that one, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty emotional seeing Pauline Ferrand-Prévot win last year. She was an emotional rider at the finish line. She is an emotional rider anyway, the way she rides a bike. But it was fantastic to see her. But a shame, and we wish her all the best with her knee problem that she had after that crash on a mountain bike. Marianne Vos was with us last weekend in the commentary box, commentating for Dutch TV, and she's on her way back now. But yeah, as you say, it's going to be a fascinating race, and I think it's a great move by the UCI to have under-23 women riding on their own.
Yeah, and it's just shown there's actually more starters in the under-23 women's race than there are in the elite women's race, which is, and I think the total number of those two races for sure wouldn't have shown up if there'd just been a single race.
No, absolutely.
So
I think it's
a good move. We did it a few years ago in mountain bike racing, World Cups and World Championships. And you know, the numbers for the younger age group grew significantly, and it's given them a really good platform then to move into elite.
Well, the leading rider then, as we take a look here in this junior race, is Decker, the World Cup winner. The European champion has got the measure of this course. I know a few of you on Twitter, at Ant McCrossan or at Simon Burney, are asking us for some updates on some riders. So here you go. Hajiri Oda of Japan is now 49th, the only Japanese rider in the field, as we see downhill. Oops. A little bit of a slide in there, taking a little bit too many risks was Thomas Bonnet. Cyclo-cross in Japan getting huge.
So I've heard, yeah. I actually went to Japan for cyclo-cross with Tim Gould in 1990.
Did you?
Yeah, and Richard Grunendahl.
Yeah? Yeah. He was riding around the course with this guy, yeah?
I haven't been since, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but they've definitely got a couple of races on the international calendar, and I know the American riders, Tim Johnson and a few of his colleagues from the States go and race at the end of the year. And yeah, from the feedback I've got from those guys, it's big crowds, very enthusiastic. So it's nice to see new nations like Australia as well. It's good to see some new nations showing up at World Championships. Japanese they've always shown up with a team, but they don't really tend to support the whole season in Europe.
No, but it's good to see them.
But it's good to have them here.
Yeah, it's good to have them here. And yeah, I was lucky enough last year, went to Tokyo. Daisuke Yano of Rafa showed me around, and I know they're massive fans sitting watching cyclocross racing and taking part in it. We see Decker then crossing the line with 2 laps of racing to go. An 8:35 lap. Oh, a crash there by one of the Czech riders hitting the deck. It's pretty slidey out here now, but Decker is going to be still around about the 12, 13 seconds, maybe a little bit more now. 16 seconds down is Crispin, who's holding it, isn't he? He's not losing loads of time. He's lost 4 seconds.
Yeah, he's not looking like he's going to pull it back unless Decker has a problem, but he's holding. And what surprised me, actually, is Jaspers hasn't moved forward.
Nope.
So it's left the other Frenchman pretty clear in third. Bonnet.
Well, Jaspers has lost some time on that lap. I don't know whether he's just given it a little bit too much throttle or he's just having a bad moment, but he was 27 seconds down last time, and he was closing on Bonnet, but this time he's going to be a little bit further back. He's going to be 55 seconds back.
Yeah, that's a lot to lose in a lap, 30 seconds.
Wonder whether he had a mechanical problem or something. There's the first Swiss rider who's about to come up to the line now, who's riding well. And then there's a big group of riders.
First American in 12th, I think.
Yeah, that looks like could be Petrov.
Teammate 14th and 15th just behind him. And is that Pidcock on the wheel?
Yeah, it is.
Which is pretty impressive.
That's an impressive move.
Yeah.
He is moving through now in, well, if he doesn't make it onto the podium, which is a huge ask, 17th place from the grid at 1:34 down.
So he's only losing 34 seconds since the first lap. And we saw Jaspers losing 30 seconds. So, yeah, he's not taking time out of Decker, but he's certainly looking like he could move into a top 10 with a couple of laps to go. And similarly with the Americans, I think those 2 Americans looking like they've regrouped a little bit. I don't think they had a fun time out there on the first lap, which honestly from a front row start they should have been in a better position. They kind of gave that away a little bit. They spent a lot of time and a lot of effort getting the UCI points to get a front row start at World Championships.
Yeah.
And on a course like this, that makes the difference. And they've done the hard part. You know, they've been chasing races. They've got the points, and they just missed the race really that first lap.
Yeah.
Put them on the back foot, and it's hard to come back from the late teens, early 20s, which is where we've seen Hecht and Petrov.
First Canadian riders, Brody Sanderson and Gunnar Holmgren, are around about the top 46th, 47th place at the moment in the race. But we were talking last night, weren't we, about how juniors react when it comes to World Championship Day, and the fact that you can do all the hard work, and then on this day, just the nerves, the expectation, the size of the event, and everything can just put paid to everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, the head is the most powerful part of what's going on with a lot of these riders, and it can make or break them. And it's you know, when you're 17, 18 years old, it's sometimes not very easy to control the emotions and the nerves that come with a big event. And there is a lot of expectation, even if it's not intended, from friends and family and teammates and sponsors and national coaches. And you've got 1,000 people telling you what to do and 1,000 people telling you to have a good weekend, and everyone's willing you on. But sometimes it can be a positive stress, and sometimes it can be negative. And I think the junior age group is the one where you see the differences.
The Australian riders, Ben Walkerdon and Noah Barrow, about 55th and 57th place at the moment in this Junior World Championship. Impressed by this young Frenchman, though. He's held his own. He's got the gap. He looked at one point like he was going to go backwards, but he hasn't. He's stuck at it, and he's looking potentially here at a silver medal in this Junior World Championship. Meanwhile, Decker is just picking his way around this course, making it look pretty simple so far. But you don't recognise just how fast he is actually riding around here as he gets back on a nice clean bike. The pit crews are going to be busy.
They're not actually.
No,
no,
you don't think so?
No, it's not clogging mud at all. It's not too bad. I think Decker's in a situation where he can lose a few seconds to have a change and just to be on the safe side. And it's nice to have a smooth running chain, and it ought to be nice and quiet. It's sandy and it's gritty and it doesn't feel too great on a dirty bike. But it's not mud that's clogging the bike at all.
Well,
it's not affecting. It's not affecting gears. It's not affecting drive chains. You know, it's not going to snap rear derailleurs off. It's not like last week at all. So
no, last week was pretty terrible.
Yeah, last week was horrible. It's filling tyre treads up a little bit. Again, not so significantly that it's affecting grip. Again, depending on the tyre choice. But no, I think that change was just to be on the safe side and to have a nice clean bike for the last couple of laps.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, when the riders were finishing and coming into... you know, if they were stopping to talk to us, it was noticeable as he gives it a little bit of gas up over this bridge. It was noticeable how the tyre tread was filled up, but it was more sandy, gritty kind of fill up of the tread than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. I think most riders are going for an intermediate style tread today. I think, again, it's not so critical as it probably was in Tabor last year when conditions were changing so much, and you know, tyre pressures and tyre treads were the talk of the weekend. Really, it's slippery, but it's cyclo-cross. Cyclo-cross is slippery, and it's, you know, it's not a mud tyre course. It's an intermediate course. I think if you were using a challenge tyre, you'd be on a Griffo. If you're on a Dugast, you're probably on a Typhoon. And
problem here.
Pidcock.
And this is William Gascoigne.
Gascoigne, okay.
Who's got a problem out there on the course as he gets back on the bike. Here we are, let's see. Ooh, touched the shoulder almost on that post, came down.
Just got stuck in a rut.
And now he's just got to get himself back up and running. So that was William Gascoigne, the British rider, catching the Canadian just in front of him as Decker now hits the run up. Puts the bike on the shoulder very, very nicely indeed. Picks his way over the top.
So now he's got about, when he gets to the top of this little sand dune, he's got about 15 metres to get on, get clicked in, turn right, and it's a really, really steep grade. It's probably 25 to 30% climb, that. It's really, really difficult. Bottom gear, just rideable.
In terms of the front rings that they're using, what sort of size tooth chainring do they tend to choose to ride in these races?
A little bit depends on what they're using, if they're on a double ring or a single ring.
Yeah.
I think if they're on a double, it would be 38 or a 39 and a 44 or a 46 outer, again, depending. Single rings, high 30s, 40. Yep.
See just how hard he's having to work just to get to the top of that climb.
I actually heard that some of the riders in the elite races will actually, the ones that are sponsored, maybe the SRAM-sponsored riders on a single ring, will start on a bike with a bigger ring for the start.
Yeah.
Because it is so fast, and it's a tailwind, howling tailwind, very, very fast, and then just change maybe second lap, end of the second pit on the first lap maybe. Onto a regular bike for the rest of the race. Be interesting to see if they do it. Actually, I don't know if it's just a bit of talk, just to bit of mind games.
There's 50 riders on SRAM this weekend. Oh, another crash there as two riders hit the deck, and those are the riders Navarro and one of the Belgians. But Decker coming round now with 1 lap of racing to go. This rider has been the leader from the end of that first lap. He let the French go out and try and put the sting in the legs of everybody else, but so far, since he put his attack in, no one has been able to go with him. This young Frenchman behind him, though, Mikhail Crispin, looking good as he crosses a line in second place. He loses a few more seconds, but hasn't lost a lot. He loses 24 seconds over the 4 laps so far. He was 16 seconds last time, so he's only lost 8 seconds on that lap again as his teammate Bonnet comes through to cross the line in 3rd place. And another strong ride, having got rid of Jappe Jaspers.
Yeah, another 20 seconds again, gap back to Bonnet. I don't think these positions are going to change now for the medals. I think, for me, the surprise is the Belgian not moving forward after that first lap.
Yeah, for sure. You would have expected
Jaspers to be in there, in the mix. Yeah.
He's such a good rider, and now he looks like he's suffering here He's not even able to hold the wheel of the riders in front, and it's an impressive performance by the French. He's stretching his back, he's not on a good day, and you just wake up sometimes and it just doesn't happen. Mathieu Legrand of France is the other rider up there. The Swiss rider Kuhn is in 7th, and this is the group of riders who are going for the top 10 now. Pidcock is in this group. He was in 9th last week and he moved himself up. A very impressive performance by this young Brit, considering he started so far back on the grid. Hecht is in 10th, Groot 11th, Pidcock in 12th, Rombout's in 13th place.
Be interesting when we get the result to see how many first-year juniors are in this top 20 as well, because Pidcock, you know, he's got another year of this, and I know he mixes his cyclo-cross with track racing. Be interesting to see if he gets an opportunity to have a good go at the cyclo-cross next year. I think the important thing for him would be to do enough races to get a UCI ranking that gives him that front row start, or at least a second row start. You can't be trying to challenge from the 5th or 6th row. But, you know, a talented rider like that with multidiscipline interests, it's always a balance to try and fit more than one discipline in at the same time of year. And I think with the track running over the Christmas period, for a lot of the younger riders, it's be interesting to see what he decides to do.
You can't be a young Brit if you're not riding the track.
Unfortunately.
Not possible. But he does, he switches, and I think, you know, he gave him some speed in those legs when he came back. But yeah, you're right, he can't be challenging for a world title if he hasn't got the grid position, and it is so critical.
Yeah, and it's just experience as well. It's more races, it's more opportunities to see different courses and different, you know, next year World Championships in Luxembourg on a course that no one's ever seen before because it's brand new.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's that experience of what the weather can do and all the different courses, and riding against the likes of Decker and Jaspers week in, week out, or if not week in, week out, certainly for 4 or 5 big races where he can pick and choose and try and get some points and gain some experience. But, you know, I think for the British, there's an exciting winter ahead next year. And I think, you know, for the Americans, they've got a very talented group of riders. They've really come together the last few years. Bit more federation support, good coaching, quality riders, and they're riding against each other regularly, and they come over to Europe for big blocks over Christmas, New Year. And yeah, I think it's the new world order changing slightly. I think we'll see more and more of these different nations rather than just the Belgians and the Dutch.
Which is a good thing. That's the important thing. Let's just update you then. Jens Decker is the leader. Mikhail Crispin 2nd. Thomas Bonnet of France is in 3rd. In 4th is Doragoni of Italy. Mathieu Legrand of France in 5th. Jappy Jaspers fading now in 6th place. The first Swiss rider, Kevin Kuhn, in 7th. Thomas Pidcock now in 9th for Great Britain. Gage Hecht in 11th place. So far, the first Czech Republic rider, Jan Gavinder, in 18th place. And in terms of the other Americans, many of the Americans in the top 25 riders. Ben Turner of Britain in 22nd, Dan Tullett of Britain in 25th, Daniel Stevenson of the United States in 33rd place, Christian Storgard of Denmark in 32nd. And that gives you an update. The first Canadian rider still Gunnar Holmgren in 51st, and David Conroy of Ireland 49th. That's a few of the different nations who are represented in this field. 67 riders taken to start, 21 nations.
Now, is this the race for 5th that we're looking at there?
It is.
Okay, so that's going from 5th back to 10th. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of a group now of riders who are all together going for this this top 6th place. They are Jaspers, Kuhn, Daragoni, kind of got a little bit of a gap. Then it's Legrand, Pidcock. They're all coming together now as they make their way around this circuit. But still, the medals are the 3 that we've got used to. Jens Decker, Mikhail Crispin, Thomas Bonnet. There is Bonnet through the rain. You can see it pouring on him. Just keep it going now, and the bronze medal is his. He's got a gap of around about 38 seconds on Jappe Jaspers, so no mistakes here for Bonnet, and he would take the medal. But yeah, this is the challenge now for 5th place here. Kuhn leads.
That's 4th to 8th, that group, I think.
Yeah. Dorangoni is in there. Legrand, I don't see Jaspers. Oh no, he's on the back. He's faded right behind here. So this is the fight for 4th place in this World Championship. And the British rider, who's come from the way back on the grid, is now heading towards a possible fight for 4th place in the World Championships.
Very, very impressive. And it's this last half of the lap that's the hard part. This is where he's going to make a difference.
He goes high now. That was a good move there by the young British rider. He is flying, isn't he?
Very smart, yeah. Could have carried on riding on that lower line, but hopped off.
Well, last week, this is what he did on the final couple of laps. He moved himself from 9th place up into a podium finish. I don't think he can get himself a medal, but for a young British rider, Thomas Pidcock, who we were talking down in 32nd place at the end of the first lap, is now looking at a 4th place finish in this World Championship. The Swiss rider, Kevin Kuhn, is just making a big attack now to try and go clear to get the 4th place. Still the top 3, Jens Dekker of the Netherlands, Michael Crispin of France, Thomas Bonnet, and now it is about 4th place as Kuhn tries to go and Pidcock goes with him as they go downhill in this slidey mud. Round this corner, he kicks the back wheel out, and Pidcock is doing some ride. This is very impressive. Dorangoni trying to go with them now, but it's going to be a sprint between these riders for the finish line. And I'd like to see his lap time on the final lap. He's holding the 10th fastest lap time so far in this race of an 8:43. The fastest lap is an 8:16. But we should welcome this young rider, Jens Dekker, as he comes round the corner. The smile breaks out on his face as he goes round the final bend. He zips the jersey up. This is the World Championship, a start of the weekend for the Netherlands. Fantastic performance. Jens Dekker is the world champion of the juniors for the Netherlands. Crosses the line in 43 minutes, and that's a very, very well-deserved victory.
Honestly, he never looked in trouble, did he?
No.
That was smooth. From the first lap, let the French go out, take it on. And fair play to these two French guys in 2nd and 3rd. I was maybe a little bit harsh on that first lap. I didn't think it was a smart tactic, but they've hung on well. And the challenge from the Belgians has just faded away. And I don't think, if you'd have said we weren't going to see a Belgium in the top 6, which I don't think we are, in their home World Championships, I don't think that's happened for a long time. Normally you'd see 3 or 4 in the top 6 with a couple of Dutch. This is definitely an interesting result, but fair play to these French guys, they've done well.
Michael Crispin takes the silver. All smiles for Bonnet as he takes 3rd place. That was very well deserved. 2 Frenchmen on the podium in the Junior World Championship. Coming round the corner then. It's Kuhn. Oh, he pulls a wheelie for 3rd place. Kuhn is going to sprint in here for the 4th place. And I know I'm British and Simon's British, but I think if you look at the analysis, you have to admire the performance of that young British rider in 5th place. He's gone from 32nd place to 5th place in the World Championships. Kuhn takes 4th. Pidcock takes 5th place a week after he took a podium in Hoogerheide. The Italian rider Dorangoni crosses the line now in 6th. Behind him is Jappe Jaspers. The Spanish rider Fujo is the next place rider in 8th. Very happy rider there in 9th, Legrand, because his teammates have taken the medals. Nicholas Markle in 10th place. And then the rest of the riders now coming round the corner. The American rider Gage Hecht will finish in 12th place. Behind him will be Mitch Groot of the Netherlands. These riders crossing the line after about 44, 45 minutes of racing. The next rider to finish now will be Jan Gavenda of the Czech Republic, who slides the back wheel all over the place. And here are the rest of the riders crossing the line.
I'm not sure if this is right or not, but I have a feeling that the year before Roger Hammond won his junior title for Great Britain in Leeds in '92, I think he was 5th in Geaton in his first year as a junior.
I think you're right.
So I think this could be setting up a nice story for next year for Pidcock.
Well, if Roger Hammond is watching, I'm sure he'll let us know.
I'm sure he will.
He is, of course, the last gold medalist for Great Britain in a World Championship. Now, of course, a team director of both the Madison Genesis team and Dimension Data, looking after Mark Cavendish. The rest of the riders coming in across the line now. The next American rider, but it's all about this young Jens Decker. He was a European champion. He won the World Cup. And he, this season, won in Coxeide, he won in Hoogerheide, and he is now the world champion as a junior, and he's very, very happy with that performance. Yep, he didn't put a foot wrong all day.
He didn't. I think that's about as controlled as you can race a world championship. That, for me, didn't put a foot wrong, was obviously well in control the whole time, and yeah, congratulations, Decker. That was a good race.
It certainly was. He just rides in there, and he will be on the podium shortly. Well, a good start for the Dutch.
And a bad start for the Belgians, I think, is more to the point.
Yeah.
They'll be starting the doom and gloom analysis already on that one. Very unusual for them not to have competitive juniors. And the problem is, on home turf, the Belgian media, they're not the friendliest people when the results don't come. Even
at junior level.
Yeah.
You've got Jaspers, Romboots and Vermeesch. Here's the result then of the Junior World Cyclo-cross Championship. Jens Decker wins 43 minutes and 5 seconds. Mikael Crispin 35 seconds down. A really controlled ride by him in second to hold on to the silver medal. Thomas Bonnet in the bronze medal position for France, 1 minute down. Kuhn of Switzerland in fourth. A great performance by the young Swiss rider. Great Britain's Thomas Pidcock in 5th place. As we run through the top 20 now, Gage Hecht of the United States in 12th. First Czech Republic rider Jan Gavenda. Eric Brunner of the United States in 17th place. And that's the makeup of the top 20 today here in Heusden-Zolder in Belgium. Here's the top 30 then, if you are looking to find out where your biggest, your nation finished. Michael Rees, the Luxembourger, in 22nd. And Denzel Stevenson there of the United States making up the top 30. And we might as well go through all the riders, the top 40. We'll let you digest those and pick out your favourite rider. Well, a great field of riders. The Irish rider David Conroy there in 48th. Gunnar Holmgren of Canada in 47th place today. So, Simon, did that tell you anything about what we may see in the next couple of races coming up?
Not an awful lot, to be fair. No, I think it's you know, I think it's possible on this course to ride on your own. I don't think it's an advantage to ride in a group. It's the kind of single file course that isn't a disadvantage for sure. I think it's a hard course. I think that's shown how hard it is, and I think that's proof that the climbs at the last part of the lap are going to make the difference. And I wouldn't be surprised to see lone riders, especially in the elite races, doing a similar to Jens Decker there.
Okay.
I don't think the weather's going to make any more big impact on the course. The ruts will get slightly deeper as the races go on, but yeah, it's not going to get significantly more slippery or any big dramas.
Here's then the replays and the highlights of today's race. An almighty charge off the start line. The French riders were the team who really went out early to try and put everyone on the back foot. Decker at this point was already in 5th place overall, but this is the point where he made his move. As we went through the pits, Mikael Crispin went with him, and then the rest of the riders are unable really to go with the move. Crispin was the only rider who was able to hold the wheel. This was where Kuhn hit the deck. One of the other Dutch riders also hitting the deck at this point. And a couple of riders being held up by that crash. Ron Boots of Belgium was one of the riders who also was sitting on the ground after that crash. Decker started to open up the advantage on Crispin, who fought valiantly all the time. And at this point, Jappe Jaspers looked like he was going to make a little bit of a move to try and get back up to the lead, as he was looking strong at this moment in the race, and so was Dorangoni. But he started to falter as Bonnet made his moves through these little chicane points on the track. Jaspers just not on a good day. Bonnet continued to work well as he went over the little climbs. Decker, meanwhile, was composed and controlled and had everything in his grasp. He rode a very, very good race. Still at this point, though, is Dorangoni and Bonnet and Jaspers, but Decker was the young rider from the Netherlands who raced into the finish line to take the world title. Crispin took the silver medal for France, and Bonnet made it another great day for them as they took silver and bronze. And it was time to pull wheelies, and they'll be on the podium in a few moments' time. One of the Canadian riders running in here to complete the World Championship. Well, if you've come all the way here, you want to make sure you cross the line and say, I finished. Canadians have a good setup now here in the local area. They've got all their trucks and bikes and everything over here. And that was Quinten Dissera who had to run the last point, but Quinten can say completed the World Junior Championships. Maybe not his day, but at least he's on the result sheet. We're waiting now then for the podium presentation, but here is the winner of today's race.
Jens, congratulations. You put up a very strong performance from the very beginning to the end, taking the lead.
Yeah, thank you. It was really a hard race for me. I think I didn't have my best day of the year. I think that was last week, but yeah, it was great. Just from the beginning, I went full gas and just, yeah, it was completely, yeah, just great, yeah.
Talking about the weather conditions, under the rain, a muddy, sticky track, how did you cope with that?
Yeah, I think the normal tires were okay for the track, but it was very slippery in a few corners. So when I felt it was safe to change bikes, I said to my mechanics to put in the Rhinos, the mud tires. So I just had the grip I wouldn't slide away and just go safe. But it was a very hard course. It was just totally not the course we trained on. So.
You're the World Cup winner this season, European champion, and now the cream on top of the cake, I would say, the rainbow jersey. That was a tremendous season for you.
Yeah, it was a little hard. I had a few illness and just wasn't very good in the Christmas periods. But yeah, I recovered and yeah, I was okay now. So yeah.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Thank you.
Well, it doesn't get much better, does it? European champion, World Cup winner, world champion in one season.
Especially when the World Championships wasn't on his best day.
Yeah.
Interestingly, he did a tyre change. That was actually an interesting point. That went in for a bike with mud tyres on, just to be safe on the last couple of laps.
It's impressive how the Muppets are out. It's impressive to understand just how good these juniors are, as to how knowledgeable they are and how considered they are. To think, right, okay, let's just be safe. Let's make sure, swap tyres, don't take risks. It's all control, isn't it?
It is. It's old head on young shoulders, I think. It's but I think that comes, again, we talked about it already, a little bit from the environment he's in. He's working and he's surrounded by people that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years, and year in, year out, they provide and produce riders at that caliber. And you know, there's no secrets necessarily. It's just experience and learning, and he's got the right people to learn from. But yeah, you still need that confidence to be able to make a decision during a race when you're at the front of a World Championships, and that shows confidence.
Yeah, no stress, just stay calm, stay composed. Our hotel's going to be very noisy tonight. We saw these young French riders leaving for the start earlier on today. Well, they're now going to get their medals. They're making sure the hair is perfect, and they're about to get their World Championship medals.
Yeah, the French win the hair competition, I think, on this podium.
They do.
Yep.
No doubt whatsoever. He's going to get a hair contract if he carries on like this. Very impressive performance here by the French guys, but the gold medal is going to go to the Netherlands with that controlled performance. Here's our first podium presentation of the 2016 World Cyclo-cross Championships.
The World Ceremony of the 2016 UCI Cyclo-cross World Championships for junior men.
Publieksrechtelijkheid van het wereldkampioenschap bij de 2016 voor mannen juniors.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal.
Op de derde plaats en winnaar van de bronzen medaille voor Frankrijk, Thomas Bonnet.
Thomas Bonnet of France takes the bronze medal in the Junior World Championship.
In second place and winner of the silver medal.
Op de tweede plaats de winnaar van de zilveren medaille. À la deuxième place, les remportants de la médaille d'argent pour la France, Michael Crispin.
Michael Crispin is the rider who takes the silver medal. A proud moment for him, an impressive performance, very controlled in second place.
In first place, the world champion and winner of the gold medal.
Op de eerste plaats, wereldkampioen en winnaar van de gouden medaille. À la première place, le champion du monde et le vainqueur de la médaille d'or pour le Pays-Bas, Jens Dekker.
Jens Dekker then is the world champion. And the new World Championship jerseys being shown here for the first time. Completely, you won't notice it too much, but some subtle design changes now to the World Championship jersey. And all World Championship disciplines will now receive the same jersey, which has a little bit more of a retro look. Very nice indeed. So Jens Dekker then is the world champion for the Netherlands. He starts their weekend well.
De bloemen voor de derde en de tweede plaats worden overhandigd door de heer Pieter Tielens, schepen van sport van Heusden-Zolder. Les fleurs du troisième et du deuxième sont remis par monsieur Pieter Tielens, échevin des sports de Heusden-Zolder.
The flowers for the winner will be presented by Mario Bormans, mayor of Heusden-Zolder.
De bloemen voor de winnaar worden overhandigd door de heer Mario Bormans, burgemeester van Heusden-Zolder. Les fleurs du vainqueur sont remis par le maire de Heusden-Zolder, monsieur Mario Bormans.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention now.
And now the national anthem of the Netherlands.
Of the Netherlands.
Dames en heren, mogen wij uw aandacht voor de nationale hymne van Nederland.
So a great start to these World Championships. We've got an awful lot more to come with the first ever women's under-23 cyclocross worlds and the women's elite, which is coming up. The rain is still pouring down. It's going to continue, as Helen Wyman said to me yesterday, until Thursday. It's going to rain. He's even got the nice matching flag shoes on to make everything up and look good. And we celebrate the first gold medal, silver and bronze of these championships here in Heusden-Zolder on this Zolder circuit. It's told us a little bit about what we might expect, but I think we're going to see some pretty stunning racing over the next few hours. Well, don't forget then that we will be bringing you live coverage of the under-23 Women's World Championship as we leave you with the sights of a young Jens Decker signing the jerseys as the new world champion. We've got a couple of hours now, in fact only an hour, until we bring you the under-23 Women's World Championship. So we have a little bit of a break as we enjoy watching this young rider who's had a tremendous season. It doesn't get much better than a World Cup win, a European Championship and a World Championship as a junior all in one season. From Simon and I, thanks very much for watching, and we'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye for now.